Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you for joining me again for another live community chat here on my channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Angela. I am a full-time voiceover artist and audiobook narrator, and my channel is dedicated to those of you just getting started out in this wonderful world of voiceover and audiobook narration. And through my channel, I share with you tips and tricks and things that I do every day in my own voiceover business. And then we get together weekly in these community chats to talk about a topic or two or five. But these topics come from topics of discussion that we have weekly, come from your questions. So ask. And then maybe one of your questions will be part of one of these community chats one week. But if you're not new here, then you know that every week we have a poll, and that is basically what we're talking about today. So today's topic is like how long it takes to make audiobooks. I mean, if you've made one or at least attempted to, or maybe in the middle of your first, then you're very quickly learning that audiobooks are not not something easy or fast, right? They take time. They are a marathon. They are definitely not a sprint. I keep seeing a lot of those social media posts. I think last one I saw was on TikTok. Last few I saw were on TikTok, where you have these people that, tell you ways to work from home. And anyway, I'm sure you've seen them, where the last one was, hey, do you speak English? Do you have a phone? Record audiobooks on ACX and get paid $400 an hour for using your voice. Well, that's not how it works. So I always have to refrain from rage responding to those, because it's false. But we love making audiobooks. So we know our heart is in it. So it's a labor of love. They are not something that it's not a get rich quick at all, by any means. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes work, it takes training, it takes equipment, it takes a whole lot more than just speaking English and using your voice and making. Okay, I'm feeling the tangent coming, so I'm just going to pump the brakes right now. Let's go over to the poll, and let's see what you guys are saying. I was watching the votes come in, and I have to say I'm pretty pleasantly surprised. Looks like we're still moving around a little bit in votes, switching votes. Okay, so far we have about 33 votes. So how long does it take you to narrate, edit, and format 1 hour of audio? And it looks like 26% of you said less than 2 hours. 29% of you said 3 to 4 hours. 18% of you said 5 to 6 hours. It looks like I have an extra U in there just for added flavor. And 26% of you said, I have not done this yet. So good. I'm hoping that the 26% of you will learn something from today in preparation, of doing or producing audiobooks, if I can get it out. Ideally, you want to get to the point where you're under 2 hours, right? You want to have like a 1 to 2 or 1 to 1, maybe a 1 to 1.5 sort of a ratio. One finished hour of audio will take you about 1.5 hours to 2 hours to do. And if you're not yet at that point, don't beat yourself up. It takes time and practice to get to that point. But I would say, especially in the beginning, right, as we're still learning our DAW, we're still learning the effects and what they do. I'm working with a lot of mentees right now that are in this stage of finding the perfect harmony, between mic proximity, the space around you, what all the effects do and how they work in harmony with each other. And then the formatting aspect, right? Getting your RMS correct, the peak amplitude correct, the noise floor correct. It takes time to get to that point. So if you're at the stage where it's taking you 5 to 6 hours, just know that with practice and time and education, training, you will get it down to where you should be which is somewhere between probably less than 2 hours, right? Somewhere between an hour and a half to 2 hours to get an hour of audio narrated, edited, and formatted. Um, I think for those of you in that 5 to 6 hours, just be careful with overthinking and over editing. It's very easy to do. I still have people that ask me about breaths and mouth noise and pauses and things like that. I would say the best way to get rid of mouth noise is, mic position can help. Having water with you, right? Brushing your teeth just before. Some people say green apples, like tart apples, green apples, and there's something else. If you have any ways to combat mouth noise, please share it in the comments for everybody else. But for me, I'm plagued with sticky mouth, so I have probably because I don't drink enough water, but I always have water with me, and I'll just take swigs throughout the recording process. And then I also have a plugin from iZotope, iZotope. It's in the RX10 suite of plugins, and it's in, of course, there's 3 different bundles of plugins. There's the Elements, the Standard, and the Advanced, right? I have the mouth declick plugin that is available in the Standard and Advanced packages. And the mouth declick plugin is worth the cost of the entire suite of plugins, in my opinion, because it does effectively remove that, the sticky mouth sound. Now, as far as breaths go, don't remove them unless you have something off-putting, like it's a big breath after a long sentence, or it's you've got a throat gurgle in it or something. Remove like the big off-putting breaths, or if it just sounds weird. But we breathe. We're human. We breathe. We are a human narrating a story, bringing a story to life, especially like within dialogue and things, right? Because characters breathe. Don't worry about taking out every single breath. Don't do that, because you'll just end up over editing the piece, right? Don't think too much about it. But I think a lot of that time comes from really just making sure everything is working together in harmony. Namely the effects and then the processing. So just know that you will get there, just with a little bit of practice and time. Okay, let's go over to the comments. And thank you guys for participating in the poll. It gives me a little bit of a pulse on how to guide the conversation today. All right, let's go over to the comments and see who's here. Looks like I was getting some comments before I even got online today. Phantom Voice, how you doing? Hey, I'm back. Built my booth this weekend. Good. I'm just starting to get recording this weekend. I bet no person in here knows who I am, or even that I haven't been here for like 3 months. Has it been 3 months? God, time just flies. I want to say it feels like you were just here not too long ago. It does not feel like 3 months at all, but it's good to have you back, and I'm glad that you're back at it. Miss Johnny Tate, good morning. Thank you for doing this and all the encouragement. Oh, well, thank you for saying that. Thank you for taking the time to drop in that note. You guys make my day. Thank you so much. Joya is here. Hey, Joya. Sad to say, it takes me longer to record than to edit. Of course, this is without sound design. I need a rights holder that doesn't demand 3 and 4 takes of every scene. Well, you are the rights holder, right? I think that's your point. Editing takes half the time as recording. That's so funny, because I think most people would say the opposite. Joya says, morning. Hope everyone's day is bright and sunny. It is, until I just saw the news. I don't know if this is real, but I heard that Stephen King announced his retirement yesterday. Is that real? If it is, that's a sad, sad day. That's a sad day. Stephen King's retiring. God, please tell me that's not real. I want that to be fake news. Dylan says, morning, Dylan. I have to do a lot of pickups because words are hard. Having a new stack has significantly cut down my mastering time, though. Now I just need my mouth and brain to get on the same page. I've had similar issues and if you guys listen to me talk, I mush words together or mix words together completely. Um, and I think that has a lot to do with just, I guess, your brain is just like overworking, I suppose. Like it's trying to do several things like multitasking. I don't know. But I think for me, it's a matter of finding something to narrate and narrating it deliberately, like on purpose, enunciating every word, forcing myself to slow down and really see and read every word as it is written on the page. You don't want to be recording, of course. Well, I guess you could be if you're trying to also dial in your space and your effects and things. But reading out loud deliberately every word and enunciating will help to not only help you develop those sight words, but also to help train your mouth to get around every word without mixing or mushing them together. Although I still do it. I'm not perfect. Every narration is not going to be perfect first time. And that's why retakes are allowed, right? Just make sure that you take them out later on. So just keep practicing, Dylan. Just practice, 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 and you'll get there. You'll get there. Tanya's here. Hey, Tanya. It really depends on how long the chapter is. If it's shorter, I can do 2 to 3 hours. Yeah, but we're talking about just like an hour. So if it's an hour, does it take you 2 to 3 hours to do that hour? Or is it like a half hour chapter takes you 2 to 3 hours? I think just guessing, if the chapter was maybe a half an hour versus the hour, then it takes you 2 to 3 hours to do the half an hour. That's still, I think, going the right direction, as long as it's not taking you 6 to 8 hours, right? To edit, narrate, and master a half an hour of audio. I think you're heading the right direction. So just keep going, keep practicing. And if you're in my platinum group, for anybody else, we have a lot of really talented people in there that can help with these things. Or if you're not, then you can also reach out to an audio engineer. Like I've mentioned them many times here on my channel: Tim Tippett's, Lenny B, Uncle Roy. He goes by Uncle Roy, but he's Roy Yokelson. Great audio engineers that you can hire to help you. They can do a booth audit with you and also create an effects rack for you, give you some tips on mic placement and other things. Well worth the investment if you're stuck in that stage. Miriam's here. Hey, Miriam. Hello, everyone. I made sure I say the exact words that I see because sometimes what comes out of my mouth is completely different than what's on the book. I use the clicker a lot to guide me on the errors. Yeah, and there are two different ways for anybody watching. There's two different ways that most people typically record audiobooks or really anything voiceover. There's punch and roll, and then there's the clicker method. So punch and roll is essentially you're editing on the fly. While you're editing, if you flub something or you goof up, you can stop the recording, go back to where you goofed, and then re-record it there on the spot. So that cuts down editing time in post. Or you could use the clicker method, which is what I do because I'm not coordinated enough for the punch and roll method. And there really isn't a right or wrong way. It's really whatever you're most comfortable with, because ultimately what we want is a good story, right? We want your emotion and your perception, and we want it to sound natural. So whichever way works best for you is the right way for you. And when I say the clicker method, meaning I use a dog training clicker. So when I make a mistake, I mark it with the clicker, and then I just keep going, right? I'll do another take, maybe multiple takes until I feel that it just sounds or feels right. And then after the recording is done in post, I'll go back and retake out or take out all of the retakes or choose the one that I think works best. So that way I have options. I like to have options. But So you can do the clicker method or the punch and roll method. Now, if you don't have a dog training clicker, or if you have dogs at home that have been trained by a dog training clicker, it might not be most ideal to use a dog clicker because they'll come running every time you make a mistake. You can also snap your fingers, clap your hands, cluck your tongue, whichever way you want to do it to make a sharp like a sharp mark on the waveform so you can clearly see where there's a mistake. But yeah, there really isn't a wrong or right way to do it. Miriam says to Dylan, it's nice to know I'm not the only one with a mouth and brain issue. You guys, I bet you it's a very common thing. It's a very common thing. I had the same issue. Still do. Tanya says, hubby and I are eating burritos for lunch. What kind of burritos? Love burritos. Ross is here. Hey, Ross. Great morning, Angela. It's good to see you, Ross. Glad you're here. MG Steven says, good morning, Angela and everyone. Yes, good morning to you, MG. Buddy Ojeda is here. Happy Tuesday. Buddy from Charlotte, North Carolina here. Well, thanks for joining us. Pardon me while at chapstick. Thanks for joining us, buddy. I appreciate that. Ralph is here. Hey, Ralph. Thanks for joining us, Ralph. Hello from Cedar Falls, Iowa. See, I have problems with my mouth too. Annie's here. Hey, Annie. Good morning, Angela and everyone. It takes me about an hour to edit 10 minutes of audio with Isotope and a pro-made effects rack. I think I am too much of a perfectionist. I think that is, you've hit that nail right on the head. It's very, very easy to allow ourselves to over-edit because we overthink it. We overthink everything. We overthink every space, every pause, every breath, every little noise, every little mouth click, right? It's very easy to fall into that stage. And, it just ends up taking too much time. So if you, and as far as time goes, as you may or may not know, the rate for audiobooks is based on a finished hour, which is about 9,300 words. So if you're, especially in the beginning, if you're at a lower per finished hour rate, like somewhere between 50 to 100, and you're doing a 3-hour book, right? It's about 33,000 words, right? So it equates to about, maybe about a little over 3 hours, about 3.5 hours. And so if that, let's just say 3.5 hour book, you're going to make, let's just say you're at about $100 per finished hour, you're going to make $350 on that 3.5 hour book. And it takes you 15 hours to do it, right? Is that going to be worth the time invested as far as, a return on the time you spent money-wise, monetarily? Probably not. So ideally, you want to get that down, that editing time, that full narration, editing, mastering, formatting, down to a process that takes a lot less time, so you can not only get more audiobooks done and make more money, but you can also get, it's a better return on your time, right? You actually get paid for more appropriately per hour, I guess. Does that make sense? Right? So you want to get that ratio as close to, an hour and a half to 2 hours per finished hour. It goes for royalty share too. It really goes for anything, any type of audiobook. The faster you can get it done, the better return on investment of time you're going to get. So don't fall into the over editing trap. Don't do it. Joe Pace is here. Hey, Joe. Thanks, Angela. This is so helpful. Well, good. I'm glad. And if there's anything else regarding audiobooks, I know we talk about audiobooks a lot here on my channel because I get asked questions mainly about audiobooks. I'd say 90% of the questions that I get are based on audiobooks. So therefore, we talk about audiobooks a lot. But if there's anything that you want to know regarding time editing processes, things like that related to today's topic, please ask in the comments. Or if you're team replay and you're watching this later, if there's anything that you want to know more about that you would like to get, the group to chat about, then please ask. Tanya's here. Tanya. I keep calling you Tanya. I'm sorry. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Learn Audacity is here. Good morning, Learn Audacity. Good morning, all. I would assume that you have a channel that teaches about Audacity. And if that is the case, then everybody go check it out. Pamela McDonald is here. Sorry, I'm late. LA traffic and all. Howdy, y'all. Hope you brought the donuts, Pam. Where are the donuts? If you're late, you bring donuts. Brian is here. Hey, good morning. Timely topic. Good. Bear338 is here. I am quick and easy. Audiobooks are not. I am only doing samples right now, so I just adjusted the time it takes for the samples and made a guess at a 1-hour book. Same thing goes with auditions. I know we've talked about auditions a few times, but auditions for an audiobook only need to be about 2 to 3 minutes max. I still have people that ask me a lot about the length of auditions. Some people are still submitting 6 to 10 minute auditions. It's not necessary. If an author gives you a entire manuscript as part of the audition, that does not mean they want the entire thing narrated. It just means that they didn't have the time to select a section for the audition, or they just didn't understand, or they weren't tech savvy enough to slice out a section of the book for the audition. So just choose a section and narrate it. If they don't supply you with a section to narrate for the audition, then what I have done in the past is I'll go to the title on Amazon, and there's usually like the look inside where you can look at a few pages and kind of read a few pages before you purchase the book, and do that and just select a section that is available to see, to select a section of that to read or to narrate as the audition. But really, auditions don't need to be any more than 3 minutes long. I mean, authors will typically know within the first few seconds if you're going to, like if the audio quality is going to sound good, and B, if you're the voice they were looking for in the first place. And then they'll continue to listen, but it really doesn't need to be any longer than 3 minutes. So, and obviously you want to get as many auditions out in each, recording session that you can. So you don't want to spend an hour or two working on one audition. You want to try to get, 3 to 5 auditions done in an hour. And you're probably going, what? That many in an hour? Yes, that many in an hour. And you could do it. You can get there again with just practice, right? Practice. Masonry Construction is here. Good morning. I do very short voiceovers, a minute or two. Takes me a half hour to an hour just for that. Too fussy. Yeah, it sounds like it could be a very, very common thing with everybody here today. It sounds like most of us are overthinking and probably over editing, and we can do a lot more harm than good to our auditions and our finished audiobooks, with the over editing. Dylan Holt says, can you dribble a basketball? Do you have feet? Play professional basketball and make $18 million a year. It's that easy. Yeah, those social media posts are crazy. I really have to, the last one, that last one I saw on TikTok, I typed out like a whole response and I went, don't open up that can of worms. Don't open up that can of worms. But I feel bad because how many people actually see that and then buy into it, and don't get into audiobook production because of the love for it, of the love of books. They get into it because they think it's just a quick buck, and that's not the case. Learn Audacity says, I'm probably too much of a perfectionist. Yeah, and it's hard to let go of. It is. It's hard to let go of. but you will get to the point where you're no longer searching for perfect, because I mean, really, there is no such thing as perfect, right? The definition of perfect is subjective. Everybody's got a different definition of perfect. And so perfect is just it doesn't exist, right? If you keep striving for what you call perfect, you're never going to be done. You're never going to be ready. You're never going to move forward, right? You're always going to be striving for something that doesn't really exist. So you have to learn to get comfortable with satisfied, right? You meet all the ACX standards. There's nothing off-putting in it. The audio quality is good. Move on with life, right? I mean, really, ask yourself, what is my definition of perfect? Is that attainable? Is striving for my definition of perfect going to keep me from moving forward? Or am I going to get stuck with, every hour of audio is going to take me 15 hours to do because I'm striving for something that's just unattainable? But I'm glad that you guys recognize that. That is the first step to moving past it. Paul Landergan, voiceover artist. Welcome, Paul. Hi, Paul here, UK voice and audiobook narrator. Glad to have you. I'm amazed at the number of people who can produce an hour of audio in under 4 hours. I've produced 16 books to date and can't manage under 5 hours. I also, again, with time and practice, and I find that a lot of people that are in that sort of time slot will listen to in post, they'll go over the same file multiple times for different reasons. And I've gotten my process down to narrate the file, save it, apply my effects rack, go through and edit it once, and then normalize it to -3, and then check it in amplitude statistics to see if I'm within ACX's standard. But I find that some people will record it, save it, and then apply the effects rack, listen through it, and then just to make sure that it took out all of the room, the room noise, and if it did the amplification, if it did all the things in their effects rack, and they'll listen through it again and then remove the retakes. And then they'll listen through it again and check for room noise. And then they'll listen through it again to proof it, right? They'll go through multiple times the same file instead of just doing it all at once with that one listen through. So the one listen through, you're proofing, you're removing retakes, you're checking that all of the mouth noise or most of it has been removed or reduced. You're adjusting breaths or removing big breaths, right? You're adjusting pauses. You're doing all of that in one listen through. If you can get your process at least down to that, I think that in and of itself would save a lot of people a lot of time. You don't have to listen through the same file multiple times for multiple reasons. Condense it all into one listen through, and that might help save a lot of time. Dwight's here. Hey, Dwight. Good morning. Great day here in Connecticut. Today, I get my sound foam delivered after weeks and weeks of waiting. That stinks. Why'd you have to wait so long? But that's great. That's awesome. Dylan says, congrats, Dwight. Yes, absolutely. Caesar's here. Caesar says, back in Feverville. I'm sorry, Caesar, but I'll keep my comments short. I can do under 2 hours now with the new highly optimized process. I just have to be able to actually use this process going forward. Why would you not be able to actually? Is it just a matter of remembering? Brian says, I would never overthink. Never? I would never be bothered by every little tick and click of my mouth. I think you're being facetious. Learn Audacity says RX10 mouth declick works great. It does. It's probably hands down my favorite plugin. I'm so glad I bought it. Now, just to touch on that again, remember there are 3 different bundles of effects on for RX10. Again, there's the Elements, which is the base package. Then there's the Standard, and then there's the Advanced. Mouth declick is only available in the Standard and the Advanced. It's not available in Elements. And also, sorry, my phone's making noise. But in the Elements package, there is a just declick, and that is more for like mechanical clicks, like maybe even clicks that were caused by service interruption or something like that. Non-organic clicks. Not to be gross, but you know what I mean. Mouth declick is more focused on the organic mouth clicks that we make with our mouths. So, and it works really, really well and worth every penny. It's paid for itself many, many times over, because not only do I use it for audiobooks, but I also use it for everything else that I do, everything voiceover that I do. And I use it sparingly. And then in that one pass through that I was talking about, where I go through the audio file once to get rid of retakes, adjust breaths, all that stuff. I'll also be looking for any errant mouth clicks that my plugin, my mouth declick, did not remove, and then I'll manually heel brush them out. But I don't allow myself to ruminate on every little one. I'll go through it quickly and I'll adjust things quickly, because if I allow myself to overthink, then I'll end up doing more damage to my audio file than good, right? But that plugin is money, let me tell you. It's gold. Caesar says, I've always been technically proficient, so understanding the mechanics of VO processing was never an issue. I was able to dial that in after 3 months of experimentation. That does not surprise me, because you have the aptitude for that. And not everybody has the technical wherewithal to grasp things as quickly as other people. And you're just one of those people that you just like naturally born with it. It's enviable for sure. You know what? Let's check the poll really quick. Again, the poll question. And looks like there's 57 of you in here watching. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. Really quickly, again, the poll, and if you haven't submitted your vote, again, the poll is, how long does it take you to narrate, edit, master, and format 1 hour of audio? So let's go take a look at the poll really quick. And we just got a super chat. Thank you, Sean. Hang on, I'll get to that in 1 second. Okay, so we have 58 votes. 22% of you said under 2 hours, and that's ideally where you want to get to, but don't beat yourself up if you're not there yet. Just keep practicing. You'll get there. 31% of you said 3 to 4 hours, so you guys are well on your way to getting there. 5 to 6 hours, 12% of you said 5 to 6 hours. And that's usually at the beginning, where we're still trying to get a firm grasp on how everything works together. So don't lose hope. You're not doing anything wrong if you're in that category. You will get there, again, with practice. And then 34% of you said, I have not yet done this. So if you're in that category, then I'm hoping that something today has definitely helped you to move forward and to give it a try. All right, so let's go back over to the Streamyard and let's go to the super chat. Thank you so much, Sean. I appreciate you. Sean says, happy late birthday. Oh, thank you. I listened to some audiobooks I produced 2 years ago, and I am embarrassed at how bad I was, but I still cash the checks. Yeah, I don't know anybody that said their very first try at something was perfect, or their definition of perfect, right? I'm pretty sure that the first things that I did, in retrospect, to me today, would probably sound like hot garbage. But and I don't know anybody that would say otherwise. I think we all have that feeling. Plus, I think, especially in the beginning when we're going, God, I sound so cringy. I sound like, why would anybody pay to hear this? And then later on, we start to develop an ear, and then we hear the things that we didn't hear in the beginning, before we developed the ear. So I super cringe to listen to the stuff that you did in the very beginning. But it's a reminder. So you should do it, because it's a reminder of how far you've come, right? So anytime that you have that imposter monster like tapping you on the shoulder going, you're not good enough, you're never going to get this, Go back and listen to something you did in the very beginning, and then listen to something that you did that day or very recently, and listen to the difference. And then just remind yourself of how far you've come and how much better you've already gotten. Thank you, Sean, for the super chat. You're amazing. Of course, I lost my place. God, so many more comments, you guys. Oh my gosh. So many more comments than there were just a minute ago. Oh my gosh. Okay, so here was Caesar's comment. Okay, so we left off here. All right. Bears VOA. I'm having to learn to remember to swallow. I'm also looking at isotope because of mouth noise. Yes, and also having a bottle of water in your studio with you just to kind of swish and swallow is a good thing to help clear out all of the stuff, right? I mean, there's a lot of different ways that people suggest a lot of different like home remedy kind of things. But the best thing to work for me was the isotope mouth declick. But of course, you don't want to put effects on everything. You don't want to try to fix everything with effects because you want to be very, you want to use effects very sparingly because it's going to be really easy to make your audio sound horrible if you have too many effects on. And the same thing goes with if you're watching videos, like YouTube videos of other people telling you what effects work and what effects don't. And then they're like, everybody uses this one effect. Ultimately, if you don't need it, don't use it. Don't use a bunch of noise reducers just because you saw somebody else using it. If you don't need it, don't use it because you're just going to end up ruining the sound quality if you're using something you don't need. So if you don't have a sticky mouth and you don't need mouth declick, then don't use it, right? Be quiet, phone. All right. Caesar says, getting the raw quality going in also helps tremendously with reducing the processing time. Yeah, along the same vein for what I was just saying. What's going on outside? Oh, trash truck. The less effects that you have to apply and the less processing you have to do, obviously, the better your sound quality is going to be and the less like tweaking and stuff later on in post you're going to have to do. So addressing your space, the recording space that you're in, like making sure that you're treating the walls around you to reduce the amount of echo and reverb in your room. Mic placement is going to be huge for helping to reduce processing time and the effects that you're going to need. The type of mic, the way that you speak into it, right? There's going to be a lot of factors that you can address to help you reduce processing time and effects used. A well-treated, quiet recording space helps, for sure. It took a year to get done. Well, that's not, I would say for those of you watching, it's not typical to take a year to get your space dialed in. Although for me, it probably took me that long too, only because I hadn't yet developed the ear to determine if something was an issue or not, and to figure out where my noise was coming from and to reduce it. So, it does take a little bit of trial and error, but it's not, some people it takes longer to get your space dialed in. So again, another reason this is not a get rich quick kind of an industry. It takes time, investment. Caesar says mouth care and mouth technique also helps. Keep mouth partially open as you narrate. Floss, gargle, tongue scrape, hydrate ahead of recording, all important things, not only for oral hygiene, but also for audiobook narration. Absolutely. Caesar says most important thing is mental state. Don't get frustrated when you have to do multiple takes. Take a breather if you feel your temper rising. Last thing you want to do is scream and hurt your voice. Yeah, breaks are definitely something that is important. Take breaks often. I limit, like if I can, I'll sit here for 2 or 3 hours max, and then I'll get up and do something. I'll give myself something to do. I'll go do laundry, or I'll go get groceries, or I'll just do something to get out of here for a little while, just to take a break, give the voice a break, get up and move around, right? You don't want to be sedentary for hours on end. So 2 to 3 hours max, and get up and do something. Take a break. Not only for that, but your mental state. Dwight says, thanks. Dyken? Dylan? Tanya says, supposed to snow 10 to 12 inches today and tomorrow. Where's spring? I know, right? This is like it was like super cold yesterday and rainy. Well, I guess April showers, right? Caesar says, that said, hello, Angela. Hello, everyone. Might be looking into some hospital time this week. Oh, no. I seem to have a staph infection that's not going away with oral antibiotics. That really stinks, Caesar. Keep us posted. Robert Reed says, great hearing everyone's comments and your wisdom. Everyone's comments, yes. But thank you, Robert. Dwight says, Dylan, not Dyken. Sorry for that, fat fingers. I know. I have fat fingers, too. I do it all the time. Bears VOA says, oh, no, Caesar, that's not good. Get better and take good care of yourself. We need you around. We absolutely do. Caesar says, not sure what I was rambling on about anymore. To be brief, VO processing, not a problem. Biggest challenges have been raw audio quality and temper during recording sessions. I get angry when I mess up. You shouldn't get angry at yourself when you mess up. You're going to mess up. You're not. That's like a perfectionist thing, right? There is no such thing as perfect. There just isn't. So you can't be mad at yourself. Just think of it as creative freedom, right? You're giving yourself the freedom to explore new avenues and new opportunities and new expressions or ways to express something, and then choose which one you like best in post. You're giving yourself a little bit of creative freedom. Joya says, Stephen King has a book release on May 21st, 2024. Retirement. Not sure about that. Well, it could also be that he's releasing the book, but he's not writing anymore. So if he's announcing, if that is true, if he announced his retirement yesterday, that means no more after this book release on May 21st, right? I hope it's not true. He's one of my favorites. Leslie says to Caesar, hope you kick that staff soon. Yeah, let's just kick it in the face. Joya says, Stephen King's website announces his upcoming book, May 21st, 2024, Retirement. Nothing there on that one. He announced in 2002 his retirement, but I don't think that works so well. No, it didn't, because he wrote quite a few since then. Bear says, one thing I have started doing is reading a big portion out loud before I ever hit record, because sometimes my eyes and my brain and my mouth do not work well together. Makes for funny bloopers, though. That is also a good thing to do, because we generally don't warm up until about a good minute and a half to 2 minutes in. So you probably should, or you could. I've also heard Bill DeWeese say this too, is to start recording, start narrating, and then about a couple of minutes in, start over. So you're nice and warmed up, right? You find the groove of the copy that you're currently reading or narrating. And then if you start over, then you're in that zone, right? So that's actually a good practice. Masonry Construction says, I use a dog clicker because my 2 giant Great Pyrenees, oh God, 2? 1 is a handful, 2 of them? Pay no attention to it. Fortunately, Reaper does. Brianna says, I want to get into narrating audiobooks, but just short recording takes me so long to edit. Slowly getting faster at both recording and editing, but my perfectionism is infuriating. So relatable, and I'm sure a lot of people here would say the same. But just know that you will eventually get to a point where you're satisfied, where you're comfortable with not only your voice, but your process. But just like you said, it takes practice and it takes patience, and it also requires giving yourself some grace, right? To not be perfect, right? But again, ask yourself, what is my definition of perfect? What does it mean to me? Is that attainable? Is it real? Probably not. Right? Leslie says, I am still working on not having a noisy mouth and practicing punch and roll method to help me cut down on editing time. Alas, feeling mostly punched, but I am getting better. Good. I'm glad you're looking at that in a positive light. Getting better. We'll get there. We'll get there. Ben says, good morning, everyone. Finally have a chance to catch the live stream. Well, welcome. Glad you're here. Bears says, oh, and thank you, Angela. I really need my people today. Been a couple of rough days. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm glad that your community can help you. Brian says, Annie, I am on that same page. Joya says, if your mic is in the right position, it limits mouth noise. If your gain and space are padded correctly, you limit your noise floor edits. Limit editing by setting up your booth and effects rack first. I would say focus on your booth. That way you can fine tune your effects rack to your booth and then practice a little bit and then just do some spot checking. And you might have to do some small, modifications, or, you might have to tweak a few things here and there until you get everything satisfiable, not perfect, right? To where a place where it sounds good. And then if you're not sure if it does, because we get accustomed to what our room and our space and what everything sounds like, right? We don't really pick out things that could be an issue because we just get used to what we hear. Have other people listen to your stuff, other people in the industry, your community, your peers, have them listen to it, get feedback on your demos and things, and ask them if they hear anything. So that way you can get, you can still like tweak, right? And get it dialed in. I felt like my brain took a left turn there. Does that make sense? I think it does. So my brain's just running a million different directions. But yeah, start with your room and then your effects rack and then tweak the two together so that they end up working in harmony together. And then you can focus on your formatting. Then you might even need to go back and tweak again, right? So it does take a little bit of time. It's a frustrating stage, but you can get through it. Ryan says, I think it would be useful to see someone edit a track in particular mine. Dwight says, oops, I was late, but I ate the donuts. What? No. Share donuts. Saqib Nawaz, I hope I said that right. It's a humble request to you. Please make a video on your setup, including acoustic panels or soundproofing blanket. Please give us an idea of setup like you, which we can implement and we'll do better. I do have quite a few videos on my channel. I do have one booth tour, and I think I've talked about what I have in here many times within a handful of different videos. I think most of those are within the audiobook playlist, the audiobook narration playlist. But if you go and check out that playlist, there are quite a few videos in there where I talk about booth setup to get you started anyway. Mary says, morning. Happy Tuesday. Morning to you, Mary. Caesar says, I was able to pick up some audio gear from someone who quit voiceover. He said he too fell into the trap of the get rich quick from home and spent himself into a corner. That's unfortunate. Yeah, it makes me angry when I see those. Dylan says, I can't engender where I heard the quote, but remember? It went something like, don't let perfect become the enemy of good. That's a good one. Definitely. Because I mean, there is no such thing as perfect. Saqib says, voiceover feels so irritating sometimes. It can be frustrating. And I can totally relate. I was very frustrated in the beginning because you don't know what you don't know. So I think watching a lot of YouTube videos, and then I think it was about a year and a half in where I got to the point where I was so frustrated. I got a coach and I hired an audio engineer, and then it sort of moved me past where I was. And now I feel so much better about most everything. So it does take time, and it does take investment. It takes investment of time. It takes an investment of money. It takes, you have to get training and you have to practice. So it's definitely not a get rich quick. You have to be invested. And that comes down to your why, I think, is the main factor of what's going to keep you here and keep you in it, is why you want to do this in the first place. Is it just for the money, or is it because you are a book nerd like myself? Do you enjoy narrating audiobooks? You have to have a strong why somewhere in that vein, because if it's just for money, you're probably not going to last long. So again, just totally, making those social media posts get rich quick, pointless. They're just rendered moot, because it's not, if you're just in this for the money, you're not going to get very far. Bear says, you have to love this because it is a lot of work. And for me, my passion for this industry and as a whole keeps me moving forward. Good. And community is also something that's very important in this, because we are, not only are we in our booths by ourselves, talking to ourselves, but it's very isolating and lonely. So community is important, not only to have someone who understands what you're saying and what you're talking about, and the strife and the struggles that we go through, but you can also bounce things off of them, get feedback on audio samples, right? This is a very isolating industry, but to have that community is huge, not only for your mental state, but also to progress and to get better and to learn and to, for support when you need it, and just in everyday life, and people who love and support you. Very welcoming and warm community, the voiceover community. JCCAOL says, since I was late, I made cupcakes. I'll take cupcakes. I'll take cupcakes in lieu of donuts. Tanya says, I changed my mic position based on a recommendation from a reputed audio engineer, but then I found I was having to do more editing in post of mouth noise, peaks, etc. So I am doubting that advice. And not all advice that you get is going to apply to your situation, or it might not even be, well, I guess it could be valid, but for their situation. Not all advice you get is going to apply to you, unfortunately. And this is why I say to listen to everybody. Listen to everybody's advice, because there could be a nugget in what they say that does apply to you and that could help you in your situation. But maybe, the rest of what they say won't apply, and you won't know that until you try it. But even in doing that process of trial and error, you still learn so much from doing that. So it's not all wasted time, right? You have to look at everything in a positive lens. You just do. It'll help you sort of get through some of these frustrating, parts of getting past, setting up the effects rack and dialing in your booth and getting your process. I mean, all of the things that we have to consider when we do this. If you just look at everything through a positive lens, it'll help you get through it without pulling all your hair out. And having a community too definitely will help. But I say take it all in. Take in all the advice, because you never know when you're going to find a nugget, a golden nugget. Sean says, have you ever tried recording a finished hour in less than an hour by talking fast and slowing it down in post? No, I wouldn't do that. If there was a time where, mainly for like commercial work and stuff like that, where you have like those legal disclosures at the end where they're talking really fast, I just do that. I just try to talk as naturally as I can, as fast as I can. And if it needs to be even faster, then I'll speed it up in post. I'll speed it up within my DAW. But I'll never do it the other way around, because I think I don't know. I just don't think it would sound right. All right, phone, you be quiet. Hang on, I gotta mute my phone. It's making too much noise. There we go. But no, has anybody else done that? Has that turned out? I can't picture doing that. I don't think it would sound good. Angela Lynn says, when condensing into one listen through, think slow is smooth. Smooth ends up being fast. I use this thought in many aspects of my life. It is truly helpful. Again, slow is smooth. Smooth is fast. I like that. And I'm hoping that maybe that will apply to someone watching and help them. Bear says, speaking of plugins, I just got Clarity VX. I like Clarity VX. I think I bought the Pro one. Is it still the Clarity VX and then Clarity VX Pro? I think it's called Pro. But I had already had NS1 before Clarity came out. And for me, if it ain't broke, I don't fix it. But I bought it to try it. And I did have some issues with Clarity in namely audiobook work. So files that were long, longer than just maybe 5-10 minutes, it tended to put like weird clips or clicks, into the audio file, like it was having trouble processing so much information. So I don't use Clarity for that reason. I just stick with NS1. NS1 has never let me down for audio or noise reduction. But Clarity is good. I have found in the shorter bits of voiceover, shorter audio files. Soulless Siren says, do you have a video kind of talking about mic setup and all that? I think I do. I think I have a few. Check out, oh gosh, they could be in either the freelance voiceover tips playlist or the audiobook narration playlist, or even both. I think I have a lot of videos here that go over all kinds of different stuff, mainly setup and like getting started, like sort of stuff at the basic level. I'm about to start an audition for a book less than an hour to start. I'll be using DaVinci Resolve. Oh, that's cool. Isn't DaVinci Resolve, isn't that in a video editing software, or is that like an audio version? DaVinci Resolve. I thought DaVinci was an audio editing or a video editing software. Joy says, hello, Angela and company from cloudy and rainy Southfield, Michigan. Is it true that less is best when it comes to editing audio files? I think so. Because if we allow ourselves to edit every little thing that we see that annoys us, if it doesn't have to be removed, like if it's a dog barking in the background, definitely get rid of that, re-record it if you have to. But if it's just a little, it's not going to be kicked back out by ACX for that, right? So I think whatever you have to do to not allow yourself to overthink it is going to be good. Caesar says, when I first started, actually, one of the things that held me back in terms of processing time was hating the heck out of listening to my own voice. Oh, relatable. I think everybody here would agree to that statement. Of course. This has significantly gone down, thank goodness. Yeah, we do get used to it. It's something else that you, as funny as it sounds, it's just something else that you do just get accustomed to. You get used to hearing your own voice. Same in the very beginning. I heard my own voice and I just like, ugh, who would pay to hear that? But guess what? They do, right? Because I'm just one voice in the din of the voices of the world, right? So as long as you are clear and you could be understood and, you can learn how to do everything else that's involved with being a voice actor, audiobook narrator, you could do it too. You are one of the voices of the world. Bizarre B says, allow yourself to be cringe so that you can become exceptional. I like that. Voiceover Van Deen, it's been so long. Where have you been? First Tuesday that we're back on BST. Yeah, so I can pop in and wind down with a cup again. Hope you've been behaving yourselves and are all doing well. We're all doing well, but I don't think we've all been behaving ourselves, but I don't think you're surprised. Good to see you back. Van Deen. Spike Flare 32 says, can you give us a brief overview of your effects rack? I always say to start with the bad and then enhance the good. So I'll have and I do have videos that talk about effects rack, and my effects rack, I have a few of them, I think, in audiobook recording playlist. But basically I have a noise reducer, and then I have a mouth declick, and then I have maybe a deplosive, and then I have my equalizer, and then I have a compressor, single band compressor. And then at the very end, I use Adobe Audition. So at the very end of that, I also have the output volume increased to 0.6 dB. And then all of that is my effects rack, basically. And then I save it as, you know, whatever I named it. And then I just use that on everything. Very brief overview. Caesar says, oddly enough, listening to my old stuff isn't so bad. I'd be like, that's actually pretty good. But my old recordings before I knew mic technique and used Audition presets, ultra cringe. Yeah, for you, but you have a voice that is just... So I can't see it ever being cringe or bad. You have a very unique voice, Caesar. Learn Audacity says it's so easy to overproduce your audio. It is. It's super easy. And again, in the beginning, when you don't know what you don't know that you're overprocessing. That's why it's important to get feedback and to share demos and samples with people in your community who have developed the ear, right? Not crazy. This is the ear. You've developed the ear, so they can tell you what they hear, because it's very easy to overprocess. Dylan says, I have a visceral reaction every time you demonstrate mouth noise. I'm so sorry. I won't do it anymore. I believe my coworkers think I'm having a stroke. I'm sorry. It's just like people who watch the mukbangs on YouTube where people are eating, and it's just a form of ASMR where you hear people eating. A lot of people can't stand that. My partner just cannot stand that. So I get it. I'll stop doing that if it's... I don't want to give you an aneurysm. Caesar says, I once had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich before recording. RX10 Mouth Declick was like, bring a packed supper, boys. We're working overtime tonight. That's funny. Peanut butter and jelly before record. Really? Come on, Caesar. Joey West says, I agree with the words of wisdom from Caesar. Yes, he always has wise wisdom. Is that a thing? Wise wisdom? That's kind of redundant, isn't it? Tiff Stellar Records are Reed's records. Tiff Stellar Reed's. Slow down, Angela. Smooth. Hi, Angela. Do you know any basic information for song recording by chance? Not really. Is it similar to VO or different? I hope that's not a foolish question. It's not. There are no foolish questions. Questions are just questions. That's all they are. They're not foolish or any otherwise. No, I don't. I would imagine that some veins, or there are some parallels, I would think, between VO and song, but I honestly, I don't know. I am not any kind of singer at all. I could not answer that question. Miriam says to Caesar, take care, friend. Absolutely. Robert says, Caesar, you provide great information. I feel like an info session with you and Angela going back and forth is like a day without sunshine. Yes, Caesar, you have great input. Thanks, Robert. I do what I can. Angela's great at what she does. And so are you, Caesar. Caesar says, and thanks everyone for wishing my swift recovery. It's heartwarming to know that not everyone wishes they could dance on my grave. Stop it. You know what, Caesar? It just popped into my brain. At some point, I think I'm going to have to do one of these lives with you as a guest. And we can talk about DAWs and rack effects and things. And I know it's difficult to pinpoint things that you should or shouldn't do or add or don't add when you're live and you can't hear it, right? You can't analyze the audio, but I think a good Q&A with you as my guest, I think would be a good thing. And then people can finally hear your voice. What do you think, Caesar? Annie says, I have noticed that if I just sit back and listen to a passage, some mouth noises, etc., won't seem as noticeable as when I am in over-edit mode, and I feel like I need to fix every single imperfect sound. Yes, and also remember that when we are listening back to our audio, we're usually using, studio quality closed back headphones, right? Intended for listening or to hearing every little thing. I shouldn't say every, but most of our listeners, the people who listen to what we produce, are probably listening on an earbud or a car stereo, or, it won't be in studio quality headphones. So they definitely won't hear all of the nuances that we hear. But yeah, it's really easy to, especially, that was the other thing I was going to say, when you develop the ear, right? Once you hear or are made aware of breaths and mouth noise, you can't unhear them. You just can't. Once they're there, you can't unhear them. But yes, there is definitely a difference in what we listen with. Gary says, the thing about doing short voiceover type work is that while the 2-minute piece may take me an hour all in, it can pay $50 to $150 plus, and it's done that day and off my calendar. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, if you want to spend the time, on a 2-minute piece and spend all day doing it, that's your prerogative. But if you want to get to a point where you're doing multiple projects in a day, then you might want to streamline the process so you can address multiple orders or multiple projects in a day. But again, that's the beauty of being a business owner. You do it the way you want to do it, right? Caesar says, thanks, Joy. I can't claim all the credit. I've learned a whole lot from Angela and everyone in Platinum. You should claim some credit, Caesar. Kathleen says, I totally messed up and didn't meet ACX deadline. Now I have a contact us message. What happens now? I would say reach out to the rights holder and ask for more time. You don't have to change the contract as long as you have a verbal agreement between you and the rights holder. You should be fine, right? But who is the contact us? Is it ACX or the rights holder? Either way, just reach out to the rights holder and say, hey, for whatever the reason was, maybe you got sick, it was a holiday weekend just not too long ago, last weekend. So, as long as you both agree to the time extension, you should be fine. Don't panic. Soul Siren says, I'm also a VTuber for Twitch, so I have a lot of audio fixes and issues done on OBS, if anyone knows what that is. I used to use OBS to record my videos. I had a lot of issues. I had a real big learning curve with OBS, but OBS is awesome. OBS is awesome. And then I switched to Streamyard, which was even easier. But there's a lot you can do with OBS, but there's a lot of little nuances, a lot of little things to change and tweak. So I feel you on that one. Caesar says, very familiar with OBS. The ability to load VST plugins into OBS has been tremendously useful for me. I use an OBS effects chain to optimize my sound during Zoom meetings. Not that you need it, because you already sound amazing. Dylan says, yes, remember, not in gender. I'm in the dark broom closet at work. Give me a break. Susanna says, April 1st yesterday, so don't take Stephen King's alleged retirement to heart. And that's why I'm always a little bit skeptical about what I see and hear on April 1st. But, yeah. But I just saw that just before I started today's session. So I was like, oh God, please don't be true. Sola Siren says to Caesar, essentially, can I use OBS as a recording tool and then upload that into Audition of sorts? Yeah, you definitely can. I did it. Bizarre B says, sometimes I tell people to get into VO because it's fun and I love it. But sometimes I think of the editing, listening to the same line 1,000 times, and then my mouth noises that make me want to throw away my ears. You definitely have to develop some thick skin and some patience, lots of patience to do what we do as you're learning, right? And extend yourself some grace. And then also come to the realization that there is no such thing as perfect and you have to stop trying to chase it. You just do. Andrew says, lovely to meet you, Angela. We just met yesterday. Well, lovely to meet you too. Lovely to meet you too. I think I know who this is. Joy says, how about nice fudgy chocolatey brownies? Why are you doing this to me, Joy? Why are you doing this to me? Sean says, I was joking. What were you joking about? Oh God. What did I miss a comment of yours, Sean? About the way your audiobook sounded in the beginning? Or did I miss something? Oh boy. Caesar says to Sola Siren, that's not something I've tried personally. But for any form of audition, I would strongly recommend using a professional DAW for that purpose. OBS is more broadcast oriented. I I have to think that maybe she's asking because she's trying to do what you had just mentioned, Caesar, about trying to enhance her sound while she's broadcasting or streaming. So if you can upload VST plugins into OBS, then that would probably be exactly what she needs. If she's trying to enhance her sound for Twitch, it's probably what she needs. Instead of trying to fix it in a DAW in post. Caesar says to Sean, I kind of figured you were, but now I want to try that and see how it ends up sounding. Great info. Sola Siren says to Caesar, thank you for that. I appreciate it. Have a good day, honey. Caesar says to Sola Siren, pleasure's all mine. Buddy Ojeda says, as always, Angela, thank you for the valuable content you share. Well, we don't have valuable content unless we have a lot of people here sharing their opinions and ideas too. That's why we do this. We get together and just swap stories and share information because it's all valid. Caesar says, DaVinci Resolve, if I recall correctly, has an audio recording suite called Fairlight. Okay. Because as far as I knew, DaVinci was just video editing. So if they do have an audio side, then that's cool. That works. Andrew says, nice to meet you again, Angela. Caesar says, Dan Cooper from Waves once said that his effects chain processes in this order. Correction, compression, coloration. Joya also recommends the same process. I apply the same myself. I think I do correction, coloration, then compression. So I might try that though. I might try moving my compression up to the middle before coloration and see if that helps enhance to enhance me, right? We'll see. Sola Siren says to Caesar, yes, it does. I recently found it and I wanted to try to stick to one software if I can. I plan to make videos as well. So having one software makes it easier. Of course, yeah. I mean, the less you have to move stuff around, the better, right? The less processing or stuff that you have to do in post, the better. There's also universal audio interfaces have real-time live audio effects as well. Meaning that, like, for example, Apollo Twin has the ability to apply effects live as it's going through the interface. So you don't have to apply it in post. Handy, I think, doesn't Rode? I want to say that the Rodecaster also does that. So the effects are applied live real time as you're streaming, So there are things like that as well if you don't want to have to do it into your software. Just popped into my head. Sorry. I'm like squirrel. Caesar says to Tiff's Stellar Reads, I do both VO and sing very badly. And I can tell you that VO processing is more surgical and vocal processing is more creative. With singing, you can crank effects up. That makes a lot of sense. Sega Old School, Sega 92 says, advice from a lot of people that do voiceovers and audible voice acting, and they all almost say, don't wait for the perfect time to start. Start today, and what are your thoughts? I'm practicing still. Yeah. If you want to do this, get started now, because it takes time. It takes time to get to the place where you're comfortable, satisfied, right? We don't say perfect. Because it takes time to dial in your space, to get the mic placement right, to learn your effects and which ones you need, and then have those work in harmony together. And then also the formatting side. And then there's the performance, the acting, where to place, emphasis on things. I mean, there's a lot to this. So get started now, get started yesterday. And even if you're at the point where you're just kind of thinking about it, just start reading everything you see out loud and see how that feels, because that's exactly what you'll be doing. Grab a book off your shelf, in your own personal library, and just start reading out loud for hours. If you're washing your hair, read the shampoo bottle. I mean, read everything out loud. It's good practice to do anyway. And also listen to audiobooks yourself. If you're an aspiring audiobook narrator producer, then you should also listen to audiobooks, because there's a lot you can learn just by listening to other narrators. Faux show. Caesar says, Angela, I would be honored to be part of the show. I just need some talking points. Yeah. Awesome. We'll work that out, Caesar. If it's not like at a weird time for you, because I know you're on the other side of the planet than me. Tanya says, great idea having Caesar on with you. He's brilliant and it's helped me a lot. Absolutely. That's why I'd want to have him. Brittany says, it's harder to listen to other people's audiobooks now because my brain goes into analysis mode. Same. I do the same thing. Everything that I hear on, every commercial, everything that I hear, I'm analyzing it. I think that's normal. Caesar says to Tiff, in addition, singing is less forgiving about recording in untreated rooms. Billie Eilish records in a bedroom and uses proximity to her benefit and has created a signature style. Yeah. Robert says, if they want to hear Caesar's voice, join the group where we all are blessed to hear him and other great voices. Yes, in our platinum group. Yes, you can hear us all. Dwight says, my acoustic foam just got here. Woohoo! Finalizing the booth over the next 2 days. Good. Congratulations, Dwight. New gear day. Brittany says, I still love them, but I'm like, ooh, there's a swallow or a mouth click. Caesar says to Dwight, that is tremendously exciting. Please post photos for all of us gearheads and booth junkies. Dwight says, will do. That has been short but long time coming. Andrew says, I'm very impressed with you already. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Brittany says, it's comforting, though, hearing those little bloopers from audiobooks produced by the major publishers. I know. What was I listening to? I was listening to a Stephen King book, professionally narrated and produced, and there was a retake left in it. I was also listening to an Audible original the other day. It was the Frankenstein. I think it had sound effects and things too. No, it didn't. It was just Frankenstein. But there was a retake left in that as well. So I hear them all the time, but just hearing that makes me feel a little bit better about maybe retakes or bloopers that I know are in probably a couple of the books that I did. Not, of course, on purpose, but something that I missed somewhere, right? It sort of eases my conscience a bit. I know, right? Listen to audiobooks. You'll hear that too, and you'll feel a little bit better. Sega Old School says, is it optimal to take voice lessons to do audibles? To do audiobooks? Yes, absolutely. I would say it's a requirement at some point in your career and in your endeavor to become an audiobook narrator. You definitely need training, not only for your delivery, but you're also going to need someone to help walk you through like a booth audit, right? Making sure that your audio quality is up to snuff, and then to focus on you and your storytelling ability. And then the formatting process. There's a lot to this and a lot of moving parts and a lot of variables from space to space and person to person and gear to gear to gear. So it would behoove you to get some training on all the different aspects, of course. Absolutely. Phantom says, you have a good day. You have a good day too. Sorry. I had to say goodbye to my partner before he left for the day. Caesar says, funnily enough, I've seen Lenny B color the signal ahead of any correction and compression. So again, it's all in the ears. If it sounds good, it sounds good. Absolutely. Coloration, Dwight says. What's the coloration things of what you speak? Basically just giving your voice depth, warmth, clarity, brightness, all of those words that we use is basically coloration. EQ. I couldn't think of the word. Caesar says to Dwight, enhancing. The sound used, tone, shaping, EQ, and possibly harmonic saturation to taste, sprinkling the spices. You and your words, you have such a great vocabulary. Dylan says, oh, that's what coloring means. I hope all these markers was off of my monitor. Caesar says to Dylan, if it says permanent on the tube, you may want to consider a new monitor. Well, this has been less than ideal. Okay, wait for him. Looks spectacular, though. You guys are so funny. Phantom Voice says, Caesar, how do I get in contact with you? I need some advice. Yes, Caesar, you need to share your wisdom with others. You need to have your own YouTube channel where you talk about coloration and DAW and mics, and you really should, because you have a lot of great information about different mic and gear and techie stuff. I'm not that guy, but you are that guy, so you should be sharing that information. Hoagie Toon says, question, just purchased RX10 Elements. How can I get RMS levels via that plugin if possible, or what is suggested for ACX compliance? That is a loaded question with a lot of moving parts, and it's very hard to explain without knowing what I'm talking about, really. RX10 Elements has a lot of great plugins in it, but if you were purchasing it for the mouth declick, you're going to have to upgrade to standard to get it. The mouth declick plugin is only available in the standard package and the advanced package. But if you have the Elements package, you can upgrade for a smaller fee than buying standard outright. So that's the route that I would go if you're looking for the mouth declick, which of course I do recommend. There's a lot of moving parts to that question. If I would say get with someone who is familiar and is able to teach you these things with ACX compliance, and have them give you some individualized support and training to get you there. Because it's really not just like a singular process. There's too many variables to explain them all here. Caesar says to Phantom Voice, if you don't have a bat signal on your roof deck, the easiest, I believe, is on Discord. Look up the username Caesar Edward. Isn't Discord for just like particular groups, or can anybody find anybody on Discord? I don't know how that works, but Warm Queen says, where can someone take those voice classes? Well, you can find someone who is offering them. I know there's a lot of voice actors that offer guidance and support. I am one of them. Anthony Pica has an academy where he goes over a lot of things. But there are other voice actors, depending on what you want to do, like what kind of subgenre of voice acting that you want to get into. Like Anne Ganguza would be great for e-learning. There's a lot of great character voice actors. So it really just depends on where you want to go. But yeah, I'm trying to think of others. But for like the techie stuff, I would definitely get like an audio engineer or someone like Caesar if he makes himself available online to help you with that. Dwight says Caesar should have a channel, but the problem is that his voice is so money that we would all get lost and forget that we were learning. I could totally do that. If Caesar had a channel where he was doing content like the Calm app, I would fall asleep easily every night. Brian says colorization is makeup for the voice. Absolutely. Hoagie Toon says, thanks. I'm sorry I couldn't be more specific, but there's just too many dang variables to answer that question. Phantom Voice says, my kids do the Discord. I'm 37 and feel like I'm 65 because I don't know what all programs are. My kids know, but they also use words like Riz, business, no cap, and boomer. I also have a teenager. I'm a little bit older than you, Phantom Voice. I have a teenager and I feel the same way. I feel the same way. They have their own language. I would imagine it's much like what our parents felt, listening to us talk to each other. Caesar says, can I post an email address here or will the chat eat it up? I think it might be filtered out through the YouTube filter. I would say if you want to share contact information, Caesar, I would do it in my Facebook group for people that are not in our Platinum group. I'll have to figure out a way to make you available. But definitely if you guest for me on one of these lives, we can share your information live then, but we'll have to figure out a good way. I think probably Facebook. Or you can put it in the comments, I suppose. Once the live is done, you can put it in the comments for anybody interested. Andrew says, I would be interested in voice work courses, Angela. Well, that's awesome. Just to touch on that, I don't consider myself like a coach per se. I can mentor you to help you get started. There are a few different ways to work with me. I have one-on-one sessions. If you go to my website, voiceoverangela.com, and you click on the I want to be a voice actor side, because you have two different options when you first get to my website. You can do a singular 30-minute session with me if you want to pick my brain for a little bit. Or I have mentorship programs where we meet every week and I give you homework and we work on things. We like dial in your sound and things. Or you can join my platinum group where we meet every Thursday night. We have scripts. We have an audio drama project we're working on. There's the Discord, which is worth the membership fee in and of itself. I love my platinum group, but there's a few different ways to go about it because everybody learns a little bit differently. So I try to accommodate that as much as I can. Phantom Voice says bussin. Bussin. That's right. Yeah, bussin. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Dylan says Caesar needs a Fiverr gig for stack building. It's a great idea, Caesar. Caesar says to Phantom Voice, I literally stand your kids. No cap. Oh, God. I cringe so hard. Andrew says, I will see if I can afford you. I'm relatively inexpensive as far as because I don't do it. I don't do it for the money. I do it because I was asked to, and people seem to enjoy my wisdom. So I do it to help, but I do have to charge for my time, but I'm more cost effective, I think, than others that I've seen. Caesar says to Dylan and to Dwight, I have many ideas for both Fiverr and social media. Once I recover, I'm going to tackle both. I think that is a great game plan, Caesar. There's so much that you can offer to help others. We just need to get you on a path to do that. But first, wellness. We need to get you better first. Masonry Construction says, Caesar, you should have a public site, such as YouTube or a podcast, or both. Dylan says, speedy recovery, my friend. Kick it in the face. That's awesome. Andrew says, well, then let's set up a chat, Angela. Yes, I should be. Yesterday, I took the day off, basically birthday celebration, but I should be back on my website today after the live. I do have a couple of meetings that I need to get to, but I'm in and out of my website most of the day. So if you send me a message on my website, then I'll get back to you as soon as I can. But that is pretty much it for today, y'all. I've got to get going, but thank you for joining me again for another live community chat. I appreciate the time that you take out of your day to hang out with me and everybody else that comes in here every week. I think this went really well. I think lots of great information shared. If you're watching this in team replay, then if there's something specific that you guys want to talk about, if there's something that just burning question, remember, no question is dumb. No question is dumb. So if you have a question about something, then post it in the comments, and then that could very well be something that we talk about in a future community chat. But thank you all for spending time with me today, and I'll see y'all next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. See you then. Bye.